Yaya Mikhail Masa video. The hidden truth behind the white civilization and the ancient beings. Welcome to this groundbreaking exploration of ancient knowledge, hidden civilizations, and extraterrestrial connections. For centuries, history has been rewritten, sacred artifacts have been stolen, and the truth about black civilizations and their cosmic origins has been buried. Who were the real builders of the pyramids? What secrets lie behind the Olmec heads in Mexico that bear undeniable African features? And what is the connection between aliens, the Bible, and the untold history of Africa? Across generations, African tribes and indigenous cultures worldwide have passed down stories of beings from the sky, celestial visitors who shaped human destiny. But were these encounters merely myth, or do they hint at a deeper truth about human origins? Could it be that early civilizations had contact with extraterrestrial entities who influenced the course of history? In this video, we will unravel the mystery of the Chitauli, the legendary beings described by the Zulu and the Sky People that many African tribes believed guided humanity. We'll explore how these narratives align with similar myths found across the globe, and why modern encounters with strange entities may be part of an ongoing phenomenon. The truth has been hidden for far too long. But now we will connect the dots, analyze the evidence, and uncover the greatest secrets of our past. Prepare to challenge everything you thought you knew as we dive deep into the real history that was erased. Upon conducting my analysis, I came to the realization that the white civilizations share a history similar to what we know about the cheetah beings. In our traditions, the elders often speak of great beings with large heads who ruled over civilizations, causing immense suffering. The name Mandindan, for instance, is said to be associated with these beings, and in Portuguese it translates to torturers, those who bring pain and suffering. It is intriguing that these accounts are not only found in African traditions, but also in Western myths. The white civilizations also speak about similar beings, yet they do not understand the full depth of their history. They treat it as mere legend or fantasy, rather than recognizing its profound reality. While we call these beings demand me, they refer to them as the Greys, and some even worship them as gods. However, according to our tradition, these beings are the true sources of suffering, the cause of great betrayals, and the architects of pain. The reproduction of these ancient beings. One of the most shocking aspects of their existence is their inability to reproduce naturally. Instead, they abduct human men and women for the purpose of extracting semen and eggs, using them to create hybrid beings. Unlike humans, they do not have sexual reproduction, which forces them to continuously manipulate human genetics. Many of our elders tell stories of abductions, where individuals were taken and subjected to strange experiments. One elder recounted an experience where he was taken and forced into a sexual encounter with an unknown female entity. She appeared to have white skin, blue eyes, and sharp, pointed ears, yet her facial features resembled Asian characteristics. Her mouth and nose were extremely small, and she did not seem fully human. Through this encounter, she aimed to create a new hybrid being that would blend human and their kind. The hidden reptilian and underground societies. Our traditions speak of a great war, a battle between divine forces and these ancient entities. Some of these beings, after losing the war, were forced underground, where they created cocoons to sustain their existence. These beings, known as the bosses, are often referred to by the white civilizations as the Greys. The elders warn that long ago, one of these beings was encountered, and he was recognized as a ruler of immense power, often described as the one who causes great destruction. Some referred to him as the king of the reptiles, while others knew him as the master of deception. This entity has been responsible for centuries of manipulation, leading entire civilizations into suffering. The connection to cannibalism and ancient rituals. These beings have been hunted in the past, particularly by certain African tribes. When captured, some warriors consumed their flesh, believing that it contained spiritual knowledge. However, the elders soon realized that consuming their flesh resulted in hallucinations and strange visions. This practice is thought to be the origin of certain cannibalistic rituals that emerged in various ancient cultures. Consuming their flesh unlocked telepathic abilities, heightened senses, and visions of the beyond, making those who consumed it capable of seeing through dimensions. However, this knowledge came at a cost. Many lost their sanity and became disconnected from reality. The ancient war and the lost civilization of the Sahara. The Sahara was not always a desert. It was once a flourishing civilization, a thriving community that was ultimately abandoned due to catastrophic events. The downfall of this society is believed to be directly connected to the presence of these ancient beings. Many sought refuge underground, hiding from the great purge that sought to eliminate them. Even now, they remain hidden beneath the earth, unable to surface in their true form. However, their influence is still present in modern society, embedded within the structures of governments, institutions, and secret organizations. The white civilization's connection to these beings. It is intriguing that, despite the vast differences between African and Western histories, both civilizations share similar accounts of these beings. The white societies also have records of encounters with these creatures, though they often dismiss them as myths or legends. Why is it that two completely different cultures, separated by continents, speak of the same entities? This raises the question, have they stolen our stories, or have they also experienced the same encounters? It is time to uncover the truth, for the similarities are too great to be mere coincidence. This mystery runs deep, and only by piecing together the accounts of our ancestors can we truly understand who these beings are and what their ultimate goal is. The answers lie not only in history, but also in the hidden knowledge that has been kept from us for centuries. We must awaken to the reality that has been suppressed for too long. The dilemma of human origins and genetic engineering. Brothers, let's take a moment to reflect. I am well, but I find myself in a dilemma, a profound question that I want to share with you. When we examine the three major ethnic groups, African, European, and Asian, we see distinct phenotypic structures, unique to each. Science has attempted to answer why these differences exist, attributing them to migration, adaptation, and evolutionary processes. However, is this really the full explanation? The scientific narrative suggests that these variations are the result of environmental adaptation. But if that were the case, why do these differences remain so distinct across generations? If the explanation were simply evolutionary adaptation, would we not see a more gradual blending of features rather than clear-cut distinctions? The genetic modification of humans. This brings me to something even deeper, genetic engineering. We have already seen evidence of genetic manipulation in modern times. Consider the Chinese scientist who was sentenced to prison for creating genetically modified babies. This is proof that genetic engineering in humans is not science fiction. It is already happening. If it is possible now, what does this imply about the past? Think about it. If we are capable today of creating hybrid humans, could it be that such experiments happened before? Could it be that our ancestors were genetically modified by an external force, an intelligence greater than our own? Ancient knowledge of human genetic engineering. Now, let's consider something even more fascinating. There exists an artifact known as the gene disk, estimated to be between 5,000 and 6,000 years old. This artifact, which the stages of human embryo development, suggests that ancient civilizations had knowledge of genetics and embryology long before modern science discovered it. How did they obtain this knowledge? Were they simply observing nature, or were they given advanced understanding by an outside force? Could it be that what we call gods or extraterrestrial beings played a role in human genetic development? Hybridization in ancient civilizations. We already know that Egypt practiced hybridization of animals, selectively breeding species to create stronger or more specialized creatures. If they could do this with animals, what stopped them from experimenting with human genetics? There are depictions in ancient Egyptian reliefs that suggest genetic experiments, figures with animal heads and human bodies, hybrid beings that resemble something beyond natural evolution. Were these artistic representations, or were they recordings of real genetic modifications? Furthermore, ancient texts and myths across cultures speak of beings that were part human, part divine, hybrids that walked among early civilizations. Could these stories be more than mythology? Could they be historical records of genetic experiments carried out in the distant past? The concept of the original human and the hybrid human. This brings us to the greatest question of all. Was there ever an original human, a pure form of humanity that existed before genetic intervention? And if so, has this original human been gradually altered over millennia through scientific manipulation? Today, we see genetic modification happening openly. Scientists can create hybrid embryos, genetically engineered children, and artificially enhanced DNA. If we can do this now, could it be that something similar happened to early humanity? Could it be that what separates the different races and ethnicities is not just natural adaptation, but a deeper, more deliberate genetic intervention? This is the dilemma I present to you. Could it be that humans were engineered, modified, or even created by an intelligence beyond our understanding? The evidence seems to suggest that something happened in our ancient past that changed the course of human evolution. This is the dilemma I present to you. Could it be that humans were engineered, modified, or even created by an intelligence beyond our understanding? The evidence seems to suggest that something happened in our ancient past that changed the course of human evolution. A journey of discovery. I do not claim to have all the answers. I am simply on a journey exploring these questions, and I invite you to do the same. Let us open our minds, search for knowledge, and uncover the hidden truths about our origins. The more we look, the more we realize that our history is far more complex than what we have been told. It is time to question, to seek, and to discover the real story of humanity. The guardian of Africa's secrets and the truth about extraterrestrial beings. Yes, he was here. A great man, Credo Mutwa, a Zulu elder, and a guardian of Africa's ancient secrets. Unfortunately, I say, was because he has already passed away. He was one of the few who held the knowledge that many believe Africans never had, the knowledge of extraterrestrial beings, hidden entities, and their true intentions. Many think that Africa lacks records of such encounters, but this is far from the truth. We have ancient accounts of beings who came from beyond, and their presence was not always benevolent. These entities arrived with an agenda, and many of them remain here even today. The Western interpretation and the African perspective. The Western world has its own terminology for these beings. They categorize them as extraterrestrial entities, labeling them according to their observations. The series and documentaries they produce often depict gray-skinned beings with large black eyes, the so-called grays. However, according to African elders, their true appearance is different. Their actual skin tone is pale, almost albino, not gray. Their large black eyes are actually covered by lenses due to their sensitivity to Earth's atmosphere. Furthermore, they wear a protective suit that resembles their skin but is not truly their skin. The history of abductions and genetic manipulation. For centuries, our elders have spoken of these beings, recounting how they engaged in abductions and genetic experiments. These stories are not myths. They are testimonies passed down from generation to generation. The most common practice of these beings was to abduct African men and extract their seed to create hybrid beings. This act of genetic harvesting was carried out in secret, leading to the existence of hybrids, part human, part something else. The abductees often spoke of these experiences, describing how they were taken, experimented on, and how their genetic material was used to create something new. The timeline of civilizations and human origins. Another significant misconception that must be addressed is the false narrative of human history. It is commonly taught that white civilizations have existed for millions of years, but this is incorrect. Science confirms that modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years, but the digmentation process that led to white populations is a much more recent phenomenon. There were no white civilizations 300,000 years ago. The original human civilizations were black. Even ancient European civilizations had black populations before the depigmentation process occurred. Ancient Egypt was a black civilization. The people of Mesopotamia, including the Anunnaki legends, depict black-skinned beings. The depigmentation of certain groups was a direct result of migration and environmental adaptation, particularly during the Ice Age, when populations moved into colder regions and gradually lost melanin. Spiritual and scientific perspectives on human origins. From a spiritual and scientific standpoint, this perspective aligns with historical and genetic evidence. The oldest populations on Earth are those with the highest levels of melanin, and the younger populations are those who experience genetic mutations due to environmental pressures. This is not about superiority or inferiority. It is about understanding the true history of the human race. Understanding this hidden knowledge requires listening to the wisdom of our elders. Unfortunately, many of these guardians of truth spoke languages that were not widely understood, leaving their knowledge buried beneath layers of history and misinformation. The hidden history of Earth's resources and the influence of extraterrestrial beings. Africa is abundant in natural resources because it was the first continent where extraterrestrials landed. The minerals, stones, and elements that make Africa rich are not of this world. They came from the cosmos. The extraterrestrials who arrived first knew how to harness these materials, using their advanced knowledge to manipulate and extract energy from these resources. This knowledge, however, was later hidden and suppressed by those who sought control over humanity. 30 Wars, where Christianity, Islam, and white supremacy played a role. History is filled with wars where Christians, Muslims, popes, and Western nations have been deeply involved, often for power, conquest, and the suppression of knowledge. Here are 30 wars where they played a role. The Crusades, 1095 to 1291, the Spanish Inquisition, 1478 to 1834, the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, the Anglo-Zulu War, 1879, the Herero and Namakwa Genocide, 1904 to 1908, the Atlantic Slave Trade Wars, 16th to 19th century, the Italian invasion of Ethiopia, 1935 to 1936, the Scramble for Africa conflicts, 1880s to 1900s, the Boer Wars, 1880 to 1881, 1899 to 1902, the Rwandan Genocide, 1994, the Transatlantic Slave Trade Resistance Wars, the British Colonization Wars, 1700s to 1900s, the Opium Wars, 1839-1842, 1856 to 1860, the French-Algerian War, 1954 to 1962, the Haiti Revolution, 1791 to 1804, the Mau Mau Uprising, 1952 to 1960, the Congo Wars of Colonization, the West African Slave Wars, the Dutch and Portuguese Colonial Wars, the Indo-Pakistani Religious Wars, the Spanish colonization of the Americas, the Anglo-Ashanti Wars, 1824 to 1900, the Balkan religious conflicts, the American-Philippine War, 1899 to 1902, the King Leopold massacres in the Congo, the Christianization conflicts in Latin America, the British Indian Wars, 1757 to 1947, the Armenian Genocide, 1915, the Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975, the Gulf Wars, 1990 to 1991, 2003-2011. These are just 30 examples, but the list goes on and on. In all these conflicts, white Christians, Muslims, and popes were involved in shaping the world through war, bloodshed, and conquest, all under the claim of righteousness while hiding their true intentions. Atheism, alien genes, and the pact with darkness. Atheism has spread widely in the West and the East, not as a natural evolution of thought, but as a direct consequence of alien genetic manipulation. Nations that promote atheism have unknowingly entered into a pact with the devil, as atheism is not simply disbelief in God, it is a programmed separation from divine consciousness. These nations have adopted systems built on technology, materialism, and the rejection of spiritual truth, which aligns perfectly with the goals of extraterrestrial entities. The suppression of spirituality is one of the greatest weapons of these beings, as it keeps people disconnected from their true origins and divine power. The spiritual condition of the white man, Romans 1. The Bible itself exposes the spiritual condition of Western nations in Romans 1:21-32. For although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts were darkened. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie, and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen. Because of this, God gave them over to shameful lusts. Even their women exchanged natural sexual relations for unnatural ones. In the same way, the men also abandoned natural relations with women and were inflamed with lust for one another. This passage directly describes how Western civilizations knew God but turned away, choosing instead to worship the beast, indulge in unnatural relations, and pursue knowledge from the darkness. The result is a world where they have destroyed the earth in their pursuit of wealth and power, worshipped creatures and entities rather than the divine source, glorified perversion and ungodly behaviors, created false religions and rewritten history to erase the truth, the whitewashing of history and the forced creation of a new race. Religions, history books, and cultural records have been completely whitewashed. The original black civilizations that ruled across the earth were erased, and their people were subjected to scientific manipulation, torture, and sexual violence to create a new, ungodly Aryan race. This forced genetic transformation was done through enslavement, oppression, and interbreeding, with the goal of eradicating the original divine people and replacing them with a race engineered to serve the agenda of the fallen ones. The true source of global power and knowledge. Every aspect of modern civilization, politics, culture, education, technology, and military power, comes from the devil and his angels, also known as extraterrestrials. The so-called advancements of nations such as the Arabs, Europeans, Asians, and Indians were not achieved through natural progress, but through direct influence from these fallen beings. This influence manifests in political and economic systems built on deception, cultural and social structures that reinforce oppression and ignorance, scientific and technological advancements rooted in the manipulation of life itself, secret societies and occult practices tied to alien knowledge, NASA, Area 51, and the hidden agenda. Through NASA, Area 51, and other secret programs, these governments continue to communicate with extraterrestrial forces, conducting research to unlock the secrets of space. Their goal is not just exploration, it is to find a way to return to their masters, to reconnect with the fallen entities, and to extract even more knowledge from them. These projects are not for the benefit of humanity. Instead, they are preparing for something much larger, the return of the fallen ones, the establishment of an alien-controlled global order, the final war between the righteous and the corrupt. Final thoughts. The truth will be revealed. We are living in critical times where all these truths will soon be revealed. The deception is unraveling, and the righteous must awaken. The wealth, power, and knowledge of this world are not what they seem. They are the tools of oppression created by those who seek to control and enslave humanity. But the time of reckoning is near. Those who stand for the truth will see the fall of the wicked, the exposure of their lies, and the restoration of what was stolen. The battle is coming. Prepare, awaken, and never stop seeking the truth. The hidden truth about white lineages and ancient African knowledge. Throughout history, many white intellectuals, scientists, and philosophers have claimed they are not of this world. Some have suggested they come from another realm or possess knowledge beyond human comprehension. This is not unique to them. Many African tribes also have cultural traditions that hint at extraterrestrial origins or ancestral ties to other planets. Examples include African tribes with lip plates, such as the Mursi and Surma in Ethiopia, representing ancient communication techniques. Tribes with intricate scarification and tattoos resembling star maps and cosmic symbols. Long wooden legs used in rituals that resemble depictions of non-earthly beings. Elaborate ear piercings and stretched lobes similar to ancient depictions of celestial beings. These traditions serve as a reminder of ancient knowledge that was passed down and hidden by oppressive forces who sought to erase African history. The brutality of ancient Roman and Greek civilizations. The ancient Romans and Greeks were known for their pagan lifestyles, lawlessness, and cruelty. Despite their supposed advancements, their societies were steeped in bloodshed, debauchery, and oppression. Figures such as Christopher Columbus, Alexander the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte, Julius Caesar, Adolf Hitler were not only conquerors but also engaged in acts of extreme violence, exploitation, and immorality. Many historical records and testimonies point to their involvement in perversion, enslavement, and cultural erasure. the systematic erasure of Black history and monuments. Throughout history, these leaders and their followers destroyed or stole African monuments, artifacts, and historical records. They raided Egypt and northern Africa, stealing mummies and sacred artifacts, destroyed Black history worldwide, replacing it with whitewashed narratives, renamed lands and erased indigenous populations, changing the history of Europe, Asia, the Americas, and Africa, decapitated and defaced statues as seen in Egypt, where the noses of ancient pharaoh statues were cut off to erase their African features, suppressed evidence of Black civilizations in Mexico, such as the Olmec heads, which clearly depict African features, wiped out pyramids and ancient sites in Africa to remove traces of advanced Black civilizations, altered Mayan, Aztec, and other Mesoamerican records to erase their connections to Black civilizations. Religious manipulation and the false Trinity doctrine. Using the Bible and the Quran, colonizers implemented false doctrines, including the corrupt Trinity concept, to deceive and control the masses. If Black people had been as brutal as the Europeans, Arabs, and other oppressors, they would have sought revenge long ago. But our nature is different, and they know this. That is why they continue to take advantage of us. The fear of Black people's divine protection. They know that we are the first people and that Nzambe God protects us. That is why they fear us. If they could, they would have already wiped Africa off the map. If they could, they would exterminate all Black people today. But they cannot, because the divine force shields us from complete destruction. This is also why they seek to flee to other planets. Their obsession with space exploration is not just scientific, it is about escaping the judgment that awaits them on Earth. The letter of Leopold II to the Congo colonizers. King Leopold II of Belgium, who was responsible for the mass murder of millions of Congolese people, knew the spiritual strength of Black people. In his letter to colonizers, he emphasized the need to destroy African identity and unity, use Christianity as a tool of control, ensure that Africans never discover their true power. The legacy of white supremacy and historical evidence. Not all white people are evil, but historically these actions were carried out by white supremacist systems. Their media, films, and propaganda continue to showcase their belief in their own superiority. They portray themselves as having superpowers, controlling the elements, and performing supernatural feats. They practice hidden rituals and occultism, engaging in ceremonies that expose their true allegiances. Figures like Jeffrey Epstein and Puff Daddy are only a glimpse into the hidden horrors committed behind closed doors. The global web of corruption, from presidents, celebrities, athletes, religious leaders, and politicians, the truth will be revealed. Many of these individuals have discovered who they really are, not just humans, but wicked, demonic entities who perform rituals to maintain their power. These rituals involve homosexual rituals and blood sacrifices, trafficking of children and ritual abuse, the use of Hollywood, politics, and media as a tool for deception, a continuous cycle of power and corruption passed down through incestuous bloodlines. They are not from this world, and their actions across generations prove it. The judgment is coming. The evidence of their wrongdoing is everywhere. The records of their actions cannot be erased forever. As the truth continues to emerge, the world will witness their exposure. This is not just a battle of nations, it is a spiritual war. Their power will crumble, and the divine truth will stand victorious. Throughout history, those in power have worked tirelessly to erase the truth, suppress knowledge, and manipulate reality. But the stories, legends, and testimonies passed down from our ancestors cannot be silenced. From the ancient pyramids to modern-day sightings, the evidence suggests that humanity's origins are far more complex than what we've been told. We have explored the hidden extraterrestrial connections, the Chitauli, the Sky People, and the deliberate genetic interventions that may have shaped early civilizations. The same forces that ruled in the past continue to manipulate the world today, hiding knowledge and rewriting history. But the awakening has begun. As you reflect on this information, ask yourself, who really controls this world? What truths are still hidden? And how does this knowledge affect our future? The search for truth does not end here. It continues with all of us. So stay curious, question everything, and seek knowledge beyond the mainstream narrative. If you found this information eye-opening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help spread the truth. Together, we unveil the past, understand the present, and reclaim our true history. Until next time, stay aware, stay awake, and keep seeking the truth.